The DRA crest symbolizes the different components and dynamics of the Fellowship of Dual Recovery Anonymous. Each one of the points, each one of the circles, each one of the areas represents a different aspect of the program. The arms of the crest that come out on each side, the four arms, represent our recovery physically, psychologically, socially, and spiritually. Personal dual recovery from a holistic perspective of both our substance addiction and our psychiatric illness. And those circles, we like to say, are warmly embracing those of us who are joining together in the process of dual recovery. It's a symbol of joining together and being brought into the fold of the recovery program. The heart of the crest, that's right in the middle, represents that part that's inside of each individual. It's that part that's always been perfect. It's that part that always knows peace and serenity. It's that part that, regardless of the madness that's going on in my mind, the changes in my brain chemistry, my thinking, memory, mood, emotions, sensations, perceptions, regardless of all that, I can draw within and find peace and serenity. It's that sense that people connect with for their personal identity and their sense of empowerment and growth. I reached that point and found that heart and gave the heart the story when I had been suicidal about 20 years ago. I was experiencing major depression, undiagnosed symptoms of attention deficit disorder. My vision had become like the day after taking acid, where it looks like there's an oil slick under the carpet and like the room is moving. I was a chemical dependency counselor at the time, and I'd be lecturing and go up to the grease board and it would be sparkling at me, and I'd try to write something and there would be these little trails, and I started hearing radios that weren't there, music that wasn't there coming out of air shafts, and started hearing voices that weren't very nice coming out of absolutely thin air. And I started thinking, Tim Hamilton is going down the tubes. I got to the point where I could not function at work anymore. I couldn't do progress notes, I couldn't keep up with my individual sessions, couldn't keep up with team meeting. And believe me, trying to do a multiple family group while hearing Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass coming out of an air shaft behind your head is a little, it makes you nervous. You know, it really does. And I just could not function anymore, and I was out on medical leave and made this understanding that I was believing that Tim Hamilton was going to wind up living in a state hospital for the rest of his life, wearing a terry cloth bathrobe with holes in it and paper slippers, shuffling around, drooling all over myself, in a state of mind that was like an acid trip that was just going on all the time that I couldn't control. And I thought, look, I give respect to cancer patients, other patients with terminal painful illnesses, to make the choice on how they want to leave this world. I choose not to live in that condition. And I was convinced. I had all the medications that I had been changing. You ever notice that when you change a medication, you don't automatically throw the bottle out, and you have these little bottles with about 5 or 6 pills or more than that hanging around your house? I was changing medications so many times that I had almost like this shoebox, and I figured if I take everything in this shoebox plus a bottle of vodka, that would be enough to kill 3 gorillas, a horse, and me. And the only reason that I didn't go to the motel that I had picked out to do it that night was I couldn't see well enough because of the visual disturbance. I couldn't see well enough to drive the car. That was the only reason I didn't carry it out that night. And so I sat up that night in a chair in the living room waiting for morning. And I was waiting for the sun to come up so that I could orient my vision a little bit to be able to get to that motel and succeed in what I wanted to do, to carry out a suicide plan. And during the night, I didn't have this awakening of common sense saying, Tim, you're in suicidal ideation, you need to get in the hospital, you need to be in a safe place. Nothing like that, nada. What happened in my case was all of a sudden I started to realize I'm still Tim on the inside. I'm still Tim Hamilton. I'm still in here. There's just something wrong with the machinery. There's something wrong with my brain chemistry. There's something causing my thinking and my memory to change and get negative and distorted. There's something changing my mood and emotions. There's something changing what I'm hearing and seeing. And it's just going to be a matter of time before I find a way to manage these symptoms and get them under control to get back into recovery. Because this happened 15 years into recovery from addiction. All these psychiatric symptoms were knocking out of my saddle. And that's the inside. That is the heart. It's that inside place of everybody where we connect with ourselves. It's that inside point of empowerment, inner connection. Now the 4 points, top and sides on the inside of the crest. The top point stands for vision and hope, and that's vision and hope for personal dual recovery. But it's also the vision and hope for a growing fellowship to be able to carry the message of recovery to others who experience dual disorders. It's the vision and hope of a growing fellowship, growing meetings, growing network. The plan, this is the picture, this is the plan. The plan is the 12 steps that serve as a guide that we can follow in the process of dual recovery. The place where that takes place most effectively is in DRA meetings with other DRA members and newcomers who are concerned about their personal recovery. That is the point where we can carry the message and connect with each other. That is the point where we can start sharing that common bond, the common feelings and experiences. People can validate what they've been going through, that they're not alone. They're not the only people who have been experiencing these symptoms. And then the bottom point is the unity and service as the formation of the groups and committees to be able to develop the infrastructure of the fellowship. That's what embodies the DRA crest.